Good morning. I just want to give you a quick peek at what I did in Photoshop when we were talking about trying to get some of these screen captures maybe to look a little bit better. I have the diode PNG file here, and I'm just going to bring it into Photoshop. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up under the image menu, and I'm going to come down to image rotation, and I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. Next thing I'm going to do is I am going to come over and I'm going to add what's called an adjustment layer. Now I'm in CS6, so the adjustment layers are over here on the right hand side. These may be in a separate panel that you may have to go under in Windows 5.5, and I'm sorry I can't remember, Window, and then come over to Adjustments. And what that should do is you should be able to find an adjustment in there, an adjustment layer operation, and I'm going to use the one called Adjust Levels. Now when I go over and try to click on this, I can't, because this particular graphic, this ping file, is in a color space or a color mode called index. So I need to convert it over to RGB. The way I do that is I'm going to go over to the image menu, I'm going to go under mode, and I'm going to come down here, and since we're just doing probably grayscale anyway in this case, I'm just going to do grayscale. If I had some colors I wanted to keep, I'd do RGB, but I'm going to click grayscale, and that's just going to discard the color information. Now I'm able to come over to the adjustments panel, and I'm going to add what's called a levels adjustment. And what a levels adjustment is, it shows you a histogram of how the grayscales are distributed in this picture. On the left we have a little black triangle that represents the pure blacks, grays and the midtones, or midtones of the picture are grays, and then the white over here is the highlights, or the pure whites. So what we're going to do is we're going to condense this tonal range down to make it almost absolutely black and white with really no grays at all. So I'm going to bring this black triangle over to the middle a little bit. I'm going to bring my white one towards the center also, and I'm going to see how it's degrading my picture here a little bit. I'm going to take a look at it, and I don't want to go too far because there must be some grayscales actually on the sides of that screen capture, so we'd lose detail if I move too much white over. I'm going to move the grayscale back and forth here a little bit. Kind of seeing where that looks the best. And once I get that levels adjustment done, the next thing I did in class was I went up under the filter menu, and I came down to an odd thing called blur, Gaussian blur. And what I'm going to do here is I've made a mistake, so let me show you. I'm going to cancel. The reason is I got to come back to my layers panel, and right now I have my adjustment levels layer picked. I don't want that selected. I need to have the background selected to do this next exercise. So I'm going to click on the background where the pixels actually live, and I'm going to go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I'm just going to apply a small amount of blur, like something under the value of 1, just to kind of smooth out the edges of this a little bit. And this time I used a 0.6. I'm going to click OK, and we're not going to see a whole lot of change, but the next step we're going to do kind of the opposite. We're going to go to the filter menu. I'm going to come down to sharpen, and I'm going to come down to Unsharp Mask. And basically what I'm going to do here is this program looks at what's called edge pixels. The contrast pixels, or the pixels that are between white and black, are two different colors. These are called edge pixels. And what the Unsharp Mask tool does, it increases the contrast between or on those edge pixels. So I'm running this along here a little bit, and I'm going to go up here. Maybe if you go too far to the right, it'll make it too gritty. How about we come over here to about 150 or so. A secret to check this is you can put your mouse over this little preview window and press and hold, and that turns off the Unsharp Mask filter, and then when you let up you'll see how it's affecting it. So it's kind of a yin and a yang. I'm going to give this maybe about 150, 170 till I think it looks good. I'm going to keep my radius at 1. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. That's really all there is to it. I went in there and I basically changed it over to a grayscale image. I went to Image, Mode, Grayscale. Then we were able to add an adjustment layer, and I did an adjustment layer of levels. When I brought up the levels command, I basically brought over the triangles and kind of moved the black towards the middle, the white towards the middle a little bit, and watched my image. I was trying to make it a much more high contrast image so I get some emphasis or some detail. And then what I did is I went into the background layer. I selected that. I went to the filter menu, went to Gaussian blur, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Applied a small amount of blur, something under 1. In this image we use 0.6. And then after I did that, I went into Sharpen Unsharp Mask, and I adjusted the Unsharp Mask values up to around 180, 170. And I showed you if you press and hold on the thumbnail with your mouse, it turns it off, and if you let up, you see how it's actually going to look or react. You can also turn on and turn off the preview. I think it's nicer to go ahead and press and hold and then let up, because I can see an instant change between the two. And that's really all I did to make this a little bit higher and maybe a better looking screenshot. Then I'd go over to File, I'd go over to Save As, and I'd change my format here to ping, the PNG file, and I'd give it a new name so I knew this is the one I worked on. So it was just a quick little exercise to show you how you may be able to improve the look of some of those screenshots.